you're walking your talk, you're doing what you need to, you're doing it with the team leaders, they in turn are doing it with their team. That's how you build an amazing business. That's how you run a really, really effective performance review process. That's not just a once-off ad hoc tick a box. It's an actual structured approach that means that your whole business feels seen, heard, cared for. They've got an action plan. They're going to stay around for years because why would they go anywhere else? That's how you build a high-performing team. Yeah, hey team. Hope you are super, super well. Josh here. Just fresh off an amazing training with our boardroom clients today. Excuse me, talking through all things performance review. We're talking about the performance review process and that sort of stuff. I guess like what I want to talk to you today is how to build a high performing team culture. And like that really boils down to getting the performance review process humming nicely. I think, some of the big mistakes I see business owners making out there when it comes to the performance review process. And if we and I'll go into that in a second, but if we come back to basics, like as we grow, as we bring on team, our focus as the business owner needs to become less about the day to day and putting out fires and all that sort of stuff. And it needs to become more about, and I've heard this quote before, and I talk to our boardroom clients about it all the time. Your focus as a business owner, as you grow, is to focus on the team and the staff and making them perform so well, who in turn look after the clients. So like many of you, I'm sure you've gone through the business building journey where you're doing all things to all people. You're wearing all the hats, your delivery, your BD, your bookkeeping, accounting, all those sorts of things. And as you grow, it is about removing these hats. And one of the best hats you can remove is project delivery. And the way that you remove that hat is by focusing on the team who in turn look after your clients. So instead of us as business owners focusing on the clients directly, yes, you're still going to have a link to your clients. You're still going to check in and how's my team leader going here and how's my team leader going there and how's my project engineer going here, etc. It becomes more about focusing on growing the team and helping them and nurturing them and helping them feel loved and supported and safe and, like they've got a game plan with you to build their career. Once your team's humming nicely, once you've got a great high performing team, they look after your clients and your business just grows. So our training today with our boardroom clients is all about how to nail the performance review process to make sure that you're setting up great culture, great team environment. You're helping people become high performers in your business, who in turn then look after the growth of your business. This sort of self-perpetuating prophecy. So like I said, the big mistakes I see business owners making when it comes to the performance review process is, one, it's done poorly and it's got no structure in place. Well, today we completely change that for our boardroom clients. They have an entire template now to work off that maps out the entire structure of the performance review process. It's just a plug and play for their business now. But a big mistake is, it's done poorly or with no structure in place. The second big mistake is that like your staff or your team, they've got no clarity on how to progress their careers. And the reason this becomes an issue is, and again, I say this to boardroom clients all the time, like staff or team will only leave you when they can't see a future for themselves in your business. I'll say that again. Staff and team will only leave you if they can't see a future for themselves within your business. So our role as business owners is to nurture them, to help them grow, but also to be constantly painting a future picture of the business and themselves in that business. And if they constantly feel like they're part of the future and they're getting, career progression and they know they're growing and all sorts of things, they have no reason to go anywhere else. So a big mistake is getting this performance review process wrong, because then your staff and your team member are like, I just don't think he or she gets me. I can't see a future here. I'm going to start looking elsewhere. And the third big mistake is like the process is rushed. We're all busy. We don't place an emphasis on it. We don't see it as important and we just rush it. We miss the process because everyone's too busy to focus on the heart and soul of our business, which is our staff, and the culture and the team performance drops. So if we get this piece right, team, if we get the performance review process right, like you've got a clear structure and process in place for running really effective performance reviews, your staff and your team, they feel clear, they feel confident, they feel supported, and they know exactly what they need to do to progress their careers. And like the spin-off of all of this and getting it right is you just got a great culture, everyone's performing well, people are loving on your clients, team feel, seen, heard, supported, they're progressing their careers, which is in turn making your business more valuable, more profitable, and just everyone is performing at their best. That's why this is so important, team. So I guess what I wanted to do today is kind of map out like a little bit about the big ideas and things that we covered in the training today with our boardroom clients, and just kind of like hopefully this helps in terms of just setting some context for why the performance review process is really important in the broader context of how to, really create and build a high performing team environment. So in terms of and again, we broke down the whole structure for our boardroom clients today, but in terms of like the structure for your like the review process, again, we want to think about it in different stages. So we've got the structure, we've got the timeline, and we've also got the who. I'm going to go through all of these with you today. So in terms of like the structure for your actual performance reviews, and I break this down into a bit of a triangle for our boardroom clients to really highlight, like they're all important, but what's the most important part of the review process? So, and I'm talking about this through the context of this is like when you catch up with your team members once a year, and again, that's not enough, but I'll go into that in a second when I talk about the timeline. But this is in the context of when you catch up to the formal kind of once a year review with your staff members or your team members. It's broken down into 3 parts. You've got the pre-work. And the reason the pre-work is so important is lots of people just do the review and are like, all right, Brad, Mary, Sally, we're going to catch up for your review on Thursday. Cool. Let's catch up and just have a general chat. It's all a bit flaky. There's no real goal set. And we all just kind of pat our backs and feel good about ourselves that we've ticked that box and off we go. Except Brad, Mary, or Sally on your team's like, well, that was a complete waste of our time. I've got no idea how to progress my career. I've got no idea how I'm going. My manager or business owner doesn't care about me. I'm going to start looking elsewhere. Bit dramatic, but that's kind of what happens. So the reason we do pre-work, and that's the first part of the 3-step part of the review, is you want your team member to come to that review having done the 2 or 3 pages of pre-work. And again, I map this out for our clients in terms of skills matrix, a self-assessment template, in terms of how they're going, looking at their performance grid, the performance matrix, and a few other bits and pieces. You want your team member to come to the review saying, I've filled all this out, Josh. I want to talk to you about it. Also, the pre-work, you've filled out very similar forms on your staff member. So the review is more about comparing notes. And you scored yourself a 2 out of 10, but I gave you an 8 out of 10. That's interesting. Let's talk about that. Or I gave you a 2 out of 10 and you gave yourself an 8 out of 10. That's interesting. Let's talk about that. So the pre-work is step number 1 in the review. So both parties, yourself and your team member, fill forms out and bring that to the discussion. The second part of the process is obviously the review, where you both get together. It's a meaningful, structured discussion. It's not a chin wag. It's a meaningful, structured discussion where you actually compare notes, look at what you both filled out. That's interesting. Let's write that down. That's interesting. Let's talk about that. And from that discussion, you're going, okay, cool. Of all the things that we've kind of talked about here, let's now granular go into what do you want to work on in the next 12 months? And let's actually set some goals together. So the second piece of the puzzle with the structure is the actual review itself. Setting meaningful goals and agreeing on that with your team member. The third part of the structure of the review, which is the biggest part of the triangle, which I drew for my clients this morning or today, is it's the action plan. It's the check-ins, it's the follow-ups, it's all the things that you do outside of the review that is the most important part of the review. Where most businesses fall down, if you're doing a review process at all, is catch up, have a chat, agree on some goals, and then you catch up in 12 months' time and nothing's happened. Awful. Not effective at all. So what you want to be doing, and the most important part, and I'll go into this in a second, is game plan. What are your 12-month goals? Interesting. You need to tie that to remuneration as well. So in those review discussions, like I think this whole remuneration bonus salary thing, it's like, why do we tiptoe around it? Like actually have a discussion with your staff member and go, cool. If you achieve those 10 things in the next 12 months, I'm prepared to give you a 10 or 15 or 20K pay rise because you're adding value to the business, you're upskilling your skill set, and you write it down into the review. I am going to, you'll get a XK pay rise if you achieve those 10 things. And then your staff member knows exactly what they need to do. It takes all of that ambiguity off the table. They know exactly what they need to do to get that pay rise. So that needs to be built into the process. But then it's about setting goals and actions. And it's like breaking it down into quarterly game plans and fixed weekly catch-ups and all that sort of stuff, which I'll talk about in a second. That is the most important piece, because it's not about catching up once a year and feeling like we've ticked the box. It's like, I actually want to invest in my staff member to make sure that they're going to achieve what they said they're going to achieve. Yes, it has to be on them. Yes, they have to do the work. Yes, they have to come to all the subsequent catch-ups with an update to you on how they're going. And interestingly, that will start to weed out comfort seekers versus high performers in your business. Like if you have a couple of catch-ups with a staff member and they're writing down the same goals, or they're giving you all these excuses why they couldn't achieve stuff, alarm bells are starting to go in terms of that's, I probably need to have a different discussion with that staff member because it seems like they're slacking off. But similarly, like, it highlights high performers. They come to every catch up. They've done the stuff. What do I do next? What do I do next? Here's what I want to work on. That's the high performers that you want in your business. But the work-ons, or the stuff you do outside of the performance review, is the most important, because that's when, like, you think of performance reviews an hour and a half once a year. It's all the catch-ups, all the stuff. It's all the progression. That is the most important part of the performance review process. So structure the performance review process. Step 1, the pre-work. Step 2, the review itself. 3 is the actual then game plans, actions, and then breaking it down into quarterly goals. Then in terms of the timeline, like, again, it's not something we just do once a year. It's a formal, structured process where there is stuff happening the entire way through the year. So coming out of your 12-month catch-up or performance review with your staff member, you're setting 12 monthly goals. You're then breaking it down into quarters. What are you going to achieve each quarter? And then at the end of each quarter, you are having another formal catch-up with your staff member to go, what worked, what didn't, how did you go, what are your goals for the next quarter? Again, it's another check-in point. And then in between the quarterly goals, you're having 6 weekly catch-ups with your staff member. That's more informal. Let's go grab a coffee. Let's walk around the block. Let's have a chat. Again, I've got a whole structure, a whole template that I just gave to our boardroom clients for them to use in their business. But again, it's quarterly catch-ups. It's 6 weekly informal coffee walks or coffee catch-ups or whatever you want to do. But can you see here that you're starting to really invest in that particular team member? You're really catching up with them regularly. They're driving the process. They're doing the work, but you are facilitating your staff members' growth. You're facilitating your staff members having a very clear action plan, and they feel like you get them and that you're supporting them on their career journey. The third thing we talked about today is the who, in terms of, like, as your business grows, you cannot do everyone's performance review. Like, there are so many studies that talk about you're only an effective leader with up to 5 to 6 direct reports. It's probably about 5. Any more than that, you're going to be an ineffective leader. So it's then breaking down your company structure and starting to look at identifying who could be a team leader or who could be in some kind of leadership role, and setting up little mini subgroups where that person is actually running performance reviews for people underneath them. Like, in an ideal company structure, you are doing the performance reviews for your team leaders. So 2, 3, 4, 5 team leaders, you're working with them. And then your team leaders are then working on their team and running their performance reviews. And you want to empower your team leaders to run those performance reviews, do the quarterly catch-ups with their staff members, do the 6 weekly check-ins, just like you're doing with them, so that it's a top-down approach. You're walking your talk, you're doing what you need to, you're doing it with the team leaders, they in turn are doing it with their team. That's how you build an amazing business. That's how you run a really, really effective performance review process. That's not just a once-off ad hoc tick a box. It's an actual structured approach that means that your whole business feels seen, heard, cared for. They've got an action plan. They're going to stay around for years, because why would they go anywhere else? That's how you build a high-performing team. So team, hope this helped. If you want to keep building your business on your own, we have a ton of free resources for you to keep doing that. But if you want to get some help, if you want to shortcut the process, work with an amazing bunch of business owners and just get some help to build your business with confidence, love to invite you to join us in Boardroom. So if that's you, if you want a bit more information on Boardroom, reach out, let's have a chat and see how I can help you build your business through Boardroom. Have an awesome day.